Advertising a film festival critical darling to mainstream audiences must be a really tough job for an advertising agency. You either create advertisements that kind of give people a false idea of what the film is like, or you try to be faithful as possible and then just have a very confusing ad campaign. There's no easy answer for that, especially with a film like About Time, which the advertising paints as your typical British rom-com with the reset button time travel gimmick. However, I was pleasantly surprised that this film's got a little more going on for it, so yeah, let's just start this episode of Romney's Reviews. The advertising campaign, particularly the television ads that have been playing here in Utah recently, are partially correct in the sense that the first act of the film is the usual romantic comedy fare, except with some of the more annoying tropes cut out, as the film covers a much larger expanse of time. And yes, the romantic stuff is a little bit painful and awkward to sit through since that was kind of the source of some of its humor, but what really carries it through is the fact that the main character is just so well written. Yeah, he's a bit of a dork, and yes, he's using his time travel powers to get a girlfriend, but it shows that he doesn't limit himself to just that. He does legitimately try to help people with his ability, and that's one thing I really liked. Yeah, it's kind of cliche in some senses where you have the main character who isn't completely selfish, but he's not completely selfless either, and really, the main character's just written so well and just really likable, and that's what really pulled me into the story. From a technical standpoint, there's not really that much to say about the film. I mean, the cinematography is presentable, but it's not very memorable. And with the time travel itself, there's no like huge expanse of, oh, I'm in like the time zone sort of thing. It's just a very simple edit. Kind of takes an approach similar to what one might see in a Frank Capra film when it comes to time travel, where you don't actually really see anything, it just kind of sort of happens. As such, much of the strength of the film really comes from the story, even if it did get a little too saccharine in a few places. As for things that kind of count against it, one thing that bothered me was within the film itself, and the other things that bothered me mostly kind of bother me in hindsight now that I've actually taken time to really think about the film. The thing that bothered me while watching the film was that they attempted to wed both diegetic and non-diegetic music, diegetic being where it comes from the world within the film, and non-diegetic being laid over in post. They essentially tried to wed those kinds of music together in a single montage, and it was kind of, well, it was kind of dumb. To me, it mostly just came across as kind of unnecessary artistic fluff. I mean, I understand you're trying to bounce through a huge expanse of time, but really, you may as well just cut the crap and just go straight with the normal montage. I mean, the montage itself was shot really well, but I just find it hard to believe that the band was sitting there playing the same exact song every single time they were there. Unless that in and of itself would probably be a story in and of itself, just the dramatic convenience band. As for the things that kind of bother me in hindsight, well, a lot of it really has to do with the way time travel itself is used in the film. I mean, it does a good job kind of outlining the rules, but later on in the film it kind of contradicts them, if not outright abandon the whole concept of there being rules to their time travel. That's the most that I can really say, because really, any more than that, we're dipping into spoiler territory. And so, if you're a sci-fi nerd, prepare to tear your hair out in a few places, or if this is like the one date you've actually managed to get in years, you may have to just grit your teeth and bear it, because really, yeah, the time travel mechanics are a bit iffy. Overall, the film is charming, moderately insightful, and has some well-timed comedic moments. If you go in expecting a romantic comedy, you'll have a good time. If you go in expecting that and not much more. And as a film in and of itself, it holds up fairly well. True, the time travel can come under some scrutiny, and the montage thingy I can dismiss as artistic license, but it's definitely one of the better romance films I've seen this year alone. So it's definitely one of the better date movies that you can see in theaters. So if this is playing in your city, I highly recommend you go and bolster the per theater averages this film is trying to bring in, because this film needs it badly. That said, I give About Time a 4 out of 5. So that's it for this episode of Romney's Reviews. Tune in Friday for my review of Thor: The Dark World. See ya then.